Well, we've been talking about Casa de Campo a lot on the show. Absolute gem in the Dominican Republic. Jerry Pate was on recently as he's involved in kind of the reworking of Teeth of the Dog. That was Pete Dye's baby. And Gilles Gagnon has been on with us several times now, the director of golf emeritus. Gilles, first off, great to see you. I understand you've been traveling a little bit outside the DR, right?
Yeah, I was in Florida for a week. We had a couple little business trip I had to do, meet some people that come to Casa, and once in a while I visit them and played Old Marsh and
Oh,
Lago
wow.
Mar and a couple other places there. So that was it was a fun trip, and the weather was perfect.
Hey, the weather looks pretty good down in the Dominican Republic at Casa de Campo. I'm coming in the summer, but right now the weather looks absolutely ideal. Or is it one of those things that's always good?
We have we're a little scared time maybe in September, like all the Caribbean islands, with the hurricanes. But we've been very fortunate with that. Other than in 1998 when we got hit a little pretty good by George, that was the hurricane that really did some major damage. But the weather is pretty much the same. In the summer it stays warm at night, where now. You go up at Altos de Chavon, for example, and I guarantee you're going to have to wear a little sweater because it's cool. It could still be 68 or 70 degrees, but when it's 90, 85 to 90 during the day, you think you're freezing, and then they got a nice breeze. So, yeah, the temperature here is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to coming down. Gilles, tell me where are we right now with Teeth of the Dog? I mean, Jerry explained the renovation going on, and really it's much needed. It's been many, many years since Pete Dye built this wonderful layout, and right now just redoing some fairways, greens, bunkers, establishing a few new tee boxes. Where are we though in the process as you get ready for the relaunch in December?
Well, I think they're coming along very well. I went just before I took the trip. I went out with Jason, which our VP of Sales and
Yes.
Marketing. We went around. He hadn't seen it, and I was very, very, very surprised and pleasantly surprised at all the progress they've made. The cart paths were pretty much in on the front nine. The greens were all been covered. They have to, they changed the sand on there, and they have to make sure that, they try to take care of all the bugs and everything else that's in there to make sure when we replant, we don't have a regrowth of the Bermuda because we're changing to paspalum. So it was all covered, and they were doing some on the back nine, and Jerry's done a good job so far. And he's got great crew with with our Dominican here, and like I said, I was very pleasantly surprised. I mean, some of the tees that I've seen that I saw that 44 years ago when I got here, and basically it disappeared, or we had moved them or changed the direction a little bit, and he kept some of the tees that we have it, but it kind of a little rebirth of these old tees there that I always liked, actually, give them a different angle. You got some on the ocean, come from the little side. Some of them you have to carry the ocean a little more, some a little less, depending on the level of the people. Don't want to have somebody that have carried 190 yards if they're a 18, 20 handicap, or they hit the ball 200 yards, So it's great. It looks good. And I think, on number two, I'm sure he told you, but he added a tee back there to make
Yep.
it a little 430 some yard versus 385. And it's going to make the landing area for the better player, much, much more difficult for them. But for the average player, we're going to play the same tees. It's not going to change anything. But very happy to see what I saw.
Hey, Gilles, tell me this, because as I've started talking to you more, and Jason and Jerry, and I've done a lot of research on Casa de Campo, I was amazed going back into the 70s. I know Mr. Dye built it back then, but you guys have had a lot of big-time championships there. I mean, there is a great history, and I know in your office you have a lot of pictures on the walls, but and you've been around. I mean, what a fabulous history at Casa de Campo that I'm just learning about, and we need to educate a lot of folks as they're starting to come down to the Dominican Republic, because Teeth of the Dog has great history, as well as obviously a brand new layout coming up.
Yeah, I mean, we had the World Amateur in
Yes.
1974, and Jerry Pate was part of the team, and Scott Hoke. And I'm
Wow.
trying to think of the other two, but yeah, Pete, I cannot remember where it was supposed to be in 1974. But Pete was talking to the World Amateur Committee, and they say, look, if you can't have it there, we'll have it in at Casa de Campo and Teeth of the Dog. Well, I got here in 1980. I can tell you, in 1974, it couldn't have been much. A little story about it, and they were talking. They said, well, what kind of spectator are you going to have? What kind of gallery? And the gentleman at the time said, with Pete, he goes, well, how many do you want? They were going to bring him in, put shirt on or whatever. But it was a great golf course then, obviously. But we had that. Then we had the rebirth of the Shell Wonderful World of Golf that we did with Fred Couple and Ray Floyd. I was part of that. As a matter of fact, I looked at it the other day because once in a while it'll show on the Golf Channel or something. And my daughter at the time was, I think, 14 years old or something, carrying the sign, of the scores, and it was pretty impressive. And then we've had the Latin American Amateur, twice.
Yes.
And hopefully we'll have it in the future. I know that they're looking at every 5 years or something to return. But there's some great history, and obviously there's some great history about the people that played here. All the presidents that have played here, all the actors that come in, and it's got a really good history, and some of it, I can remember some of it now. To ask me to, but we've done pro-ams that basically started the pro-ams in the Caribbean. I mean, there was nothing. This ambassador program type of thing also, to bring golf professional here to experience the Teeth of the Dog and the Dive 4 and the links, and then go back to their member and bring them to different destination. That's something that really, in the old days, I don't know, when I first started the business 50 years ago, I don't remember about golf professional taking their members somewhere else. And then all of a sudden, it's something that we started to promote. And it's become very popular, and obviously now it's PGA Magazine does the PGA Ambassador program. So and it's created great business by the success that we've had and I've had here. I can say that a lot of it is, I'm very thankful for the golf professional for their support.
Gilles, tell me this. I'm sure you watched the RBC Heritage last weekend. Justin Thomas wins in the playoff. And a lot was made, obviously, the history there. Pete Dye, with the help of Jack Nicklaus, the first time Jack Nicklaus was involved in a golf course project. As you watch that, you see a lot of Harbor Town, which is considered one of Mr. Dye's best. You see a lot of Harbor Town in Casa de Campo and vice versa?
Well, I think I see Harbor Town in terms of, the Teeth of the Dog, yes, in some way because of the railroad ties and, the different places that we have. But also the links, which we've talked about being underrated. That's pretty much, we've had a nice tournament a couple weeks ago, and the fireman, Paul Fireman, who was the Reebok gentleman, that they have Liberty National, and he has an event there that I go there every year in September. He invited me. I became friend with him, and he brings his people here. And they played the links because Teeth was closed. And, it was, we got to play the links. Blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm telling you, it kicked their butt. I mean, wow. It was very surprising that the score that we normally have, that the scores were very different because they're very small green, and it's very, very much like Harbor Town. You miss the green at Harbor Town, you can miss them, but then getting up and down is very difficult.
Right.
So that's a very, and he always places the green in a position where it could be a very long green, like say, for example, number 1 on the links. It's very long, but it's kind of tilted. So when you're coming at it, if you don't have the right number, it rolls back down. Now you got a 10, 15 little bank in front of you that you got to chip to maybe a 15-foot wide, area. So that reminds me of that very much so. But also number 2 at Teeth of the Dog reminds the way he has these wooden, the old wooden trees type of thing. He took some branches, but a little bigger than branches, trunks that trees that have died, and he kind of shaved them off and put them out there. And it's Pete has a distinct way to do things, and although it's different, it's still, you could always go somewhere and say, oh man, that looks like Pete Dye, or that is Pete Dye, even if you don't know if that's what it is.
Yeah, 13 at Harbor Town. Of course, 14 is that really hard par three, but 13 has that green where the railroad ties, instead of going horizontally, they go up and they
Yeah.
form the front, which is unique. And I know you probably have some of that down at Casa de Campo.
Yeah, we do. Actually, number two on Teeth is very interesting because, the left sides are rocks, basically. You go through a bunch of rocks, and then on the left, then there's sand, but there's these railroad ties that are on the left side of it. And the way this was done was Pete was marking, there was very rocky area here, and he was marking where he wanted the fairway, the contour of the fairway. So he put these rocks along to be kind of a line, and the workers took all the rocks. He thought that's where he wanted them, so they all threw him left of that area. And then when he got there, he looked at it and he kind of went, "Wow, this is great." So he kept them. So basically, that's so you got a little bit of a dog leg left, the fairway. Then you got these railroad ties, like you say, that they're more in this angle, and then you got all these rocks, and then you got a little more waste area. But at one point, and I hope we could do that one day before we open, I wanted to name every hole on the golf course, and that hole I was going to call it Suerte, and which is luck in Spanish. And the idea was that if you a right-hander and you hook it in there, a lot of time the way the rocks are there, you'll hit the rock and it'll bounce towards the fairway. But if you come the other way, it'll bounce and go out of bounds. So it's a little bit how you hit the rocks and how it bounces. So that's why I was going to call it Suerte. Excuse me. So that was one of the names that I came up. I sat there one day and I started thinking about the different names, and that's one of the names that I had. And I don't know if you have any interest, but number 5, I call it Alice Rule. And basically, Pete used to have a great friend here. His name was Drew Montague, and he used to play golf, Englishman, and one of the few first person to buy a house here. And they wanted to beat each other to death all the time. I mean, if one lost, he was like depressed till the next day. And he was complaining about number 5 all the time. It's too far, was 160, 70, and the green is very, very small, like you would have at Harbor Town.
Right.
This guy was always mad. He kept saying, "This is the stupidest hole I've ever beat. You didn't design, blah, blah, blah." One day, Alice just walked up to the back tee, took a 5-iron, took it back, and just whipped that thing right in the middle of the green. Never said a word. She walked back, got on the cart, and drove off. That was the last time we heard anything about number 5 being unfair or being crazy. So that was my deal of call it, Alice Rule. So those are a little story on each hole.
Yeah, case closed. As soon as she hit it up there, no more debate after that. Hey, before we talk a little bit about the food, because Jerry was just telling me how great the food was, I wanted to get your thoughts on the Masters. I know it was a couple of weeks ago now, and I know you were watching, and it was an incredible finish, one of the best I've ever seen. I still think 86 is the best, but I think what Rory did and the excitement level in that final 9 was something pretty special. Gilles, what'd you make of the Masters and how it finally wrapped up?
Well, the only thing I can tell you was I was up and I was walking around the chair that I was sitting on. I was walking around back and forth. And I heard a funny line about Jim Nance said something when I was walking to Heritage. He said something, when he went to a playoff, he goes, "Oh, here we go again." He says, "I barely kind of recovered, from the Masters. Now we're in another playoff."
Yeah, that was last week. Yeah.
It was amazing. And, when I saw him on 18 there, kind of missed that, that shot in the bunker, and then he get it out. I was praying literally that he would make that, but I thought he's going to miss it, which he did. And then when he came back, and now he's playing against Justin Rose, who's probably as classy professional on tour that you can find.
Yep.
I've never met the man, but he seems to be just a wonderful. And it's like now you're sitting there, and there's history, and there's this good guy, and he hasn't won, and he's finished second 2-3 times already. So it was very, very difficult to cheer for one or the other, But that I was worried about that little putt he had at the end to win. That thing didn't go in the middle either. It kind of
Right.
hit the edge. So, but I think now it's I think things could happen with him that could be real big. I think now the door's open, the pressure's off, and there's always pressure, obviously, but at least the monkey's off his back now. They're not going to keep saying, "Oh, when are you going to win another major?" and things like that. So I hope Rose have a chance to win. Maybe now this year, maybe at another major. And you see what it means to these guys. They all think these guys are loaded. They have money. They have private jets. They have everything they want, really, material wise. But what it means for them to win something like that, then Justin Thomas, winning, he hasn't won in what, 3 years,
Almost 3 years, yeah.
and you see the stress. I mean, I know when I played in a little tournament and stuff, and I'm up there close something. I feel the pressure, and obviously compared to, the one thing is funny that you don't know what is the amount of pressure you could possibly have. It gets to a point where it is so high. I don't care if it's for a dollar or for honor or for a PGA Tour. I think it gets to a point where pressure is pressure, I guess. Yes, pain is pain. It's there's a threshold there, but it was two amazing golf tournament, and I hate to say I don't know what's going on with Live, but the PGA Tour to me, I love the history, I love the tradition, I love the four rounds of golf and all that stuff. Versus, I might be criticized for that, but to me, it's shotgun music, teams, and all that stuff. I don't know. I'm not. Next week's a team, right? Is it at?
It's this week. Yeah, I'm headed down to New Orleans for the team deal. 2-man team. Rory is back playing with Shane Lowry. They're the defending champions.
They're going to play.
So it'll be fun.
I think it would be great to see them come back. Look how much fun they had last year when they won. They had the singing and the party. Yeah,
absolutely
it's
love
awesome. The PGA Tour. I just wish that stuff would get settled, but golf is. I was a hockey player, and I watched the Canadian get beaten overtime last night. And but it's the golf is it's individual, but it's team because you have a caddy and they have teams and trainers and things. But I don't know. I think it's the greatest game in the world. And sorry about that. And I love sorry, but there's so many. Why does it keep going?
You're a busy man, Gilles.
Sorry about that.
No,
but,
no.
Yeah, it's. It's such a wonderful game. I don't know why it keeps ringing. I apologize with that. I got too many phones here.
Well, hopefully that's people wanting to make reservations after listening to the show.
I'm sure they are. I apologize for that. I will call them back. But yeah, the golf is individual sport, but there's team stuff. There's, family involved. It's just such the amount of challenge it is and how many shots you have to hit. And it's like a hockey stick. You got a puck, you got a stick, and you skate. This has got 14 clubs, and I don't know. I love it. And watching these events, and for you to go to these events every week, I'm sure you have a different story and a different emotion that you go through every week.
Absolutely. And you did a great job explaining it, because we all, for those of us who love the game, there's different levels of pressure and different levels of pain. But we all experience the same thing. There's just a little more on the line when it comes to guys on the PGA Tour. And obviously, we as big fans love to watch, and I love to describe the action. Hey, tell me this, because as I was talking to Jerry, and we were talking golf primarily about Casa de Campo and the redo, Teeth of the Dog. But he kept telling me, he said, this is the best food you will have anywhere in the world. Now, was he exaggerating, Gilles, or is the food that good at Casa de Campo?
Well, I can tell you 44 years ago, the food wasn't that good because, you had a lot of Montezuma's Revenge or something.
So it's come a long way.
Yeah, we were a long way. But, yeah, it's amazing now what we have. And, again, I can talk to you about golf and talk to me about hockey and the history of this, but I'm not a foodie. Like, my wife is a little more like, kind of likes that stuff, but we do have so many different restaurants, and the food is excellent. There's no question about it. People love to go to the beach club, which is right on the beach there, but the food is really, really good. And I think having the wave kind of crashing around the shore there kind of helps the food, but we got Piazzetta, which is an Italian restaurant that I actually signed my first contract there, and every time I go there, that's the table I try to sit at.
Oh, wow.
But Italian food's beautiful. We have some Italian chefs there and stuff. They're great. We have Casita, which is kind of a more of fish place, and then we have another restaurant that it's called Calza, which is more like a sushi place type of thing. Like I said, you hit the right number right there about me with food. But and then the breakfast at Lago Grill is great. We have all these people there that do the fresh fruit. They could do the smoothies, and you have the guys that do your eggs the way you want to. And I mean, you cannot imagine. You eat breakfast there, and after breakfast, you need to walk a mile to just kind of see if you can be able to tee it up. But yeah, we have two Mexican restaurant also Altos. We have two restaurants at Altos. We have a restaurant at the hotel, which is La Caña restaurant, and then you have the beach club, and you have two at the marina, and we also have other restaurants that are privately owned that that people go to, our owners, and also people that, even although here we could be on an all-inclusive package, which is, by the way, it's the way to go. Because of drinks and things like this, it becomes, it's a good saving to do that. But you still go, we don't have a buffet type of thing here. Everything is a la carte, well done. Scenery is amazing. At the marina, you're sitting right there. You see all the yachts. So the food is very, very, very good. I used to get a lot of complaint, but not anymore. People, they love, the owners support our restaurant, and that's a good thing because, in the Dominican Republic, most homes have servants, and they have chefs and things. And so if they decide to go out, it's because the food is very good. So I don't know how much Jerry knows about food, but I know he knows about golf. But if he says that, then I will say that he's a little picky also. So it must be good food.
I love it, Gilles. You're being honest. Honesty is the best policy. No, I appreciate that. And I'm looking forward to experiencing all that Casa de Campo has. Hey, tell me now, again, and we kind of wrap it up every time this way, for those people listening and watching, basically just go to the web, right? CasaDeCampo.com. That's the easiest way to get in and plan a trip, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much the way, the best way to go and stuff. And if they want more of they want to customize things, with Buddy, they could email me, obviously. That's what I do now. You heard the phone now that somebody's tried to probably do that. But yeah, you could do that. You could, if you go on our website, you'll see my name there with my email address, or there's Kelly Sheehan, who's another one of our salesperson for that. And then we customize, or you could call our reservation department, obviously. But we do customize, that was part of that created these packages that somebody maybe doesn't want to play 8 rounds of golf, or they want to play 8 rounds, or they want to play the teeth more, or the die. And so we do customize that. We do it, 4 people, 8 people. We treat these people more. We assign a concierge, so it's more as a group. Most places, unless you have 5 or 10 rooms, they don't consider a group. Here, I don't care if you have 4 people. We go in and we consider you a small group, but we have a concierge that will book your restaurant, you book your tea times, and we'll look after you, and you can call anytime you're here.
Look forward to it. Gilles, as always, thank you, my friend. We will talk soon. Tell Jason I'll be calling him here in about a week when I get back from New Orleans, and we appreciate it. Looking forward to coming down to Casa de Campo.
Well, I look forward to having you, and it looks like you have a lot of, a lot of miles, right, on those.
Yes.
You seem to travel quite a bit. How much time are you home? Do you spend any time at home?
After New Orleans, I'm actually home for 2 weeks, which for me is pretty amazing. So,
well, you do a great job, and I appreciate the time that you give me on your podcast, and you're making me famous now. A lot of people are calling me, and they said, "My God, you're on there." It says, and Jason thinks
you're my
I'm
guy.
getting paid. Jason thinks I'm getting paid. He wants a commission on those things. Anyway,
That's funny.
Thank you so much, and all the best to you. And I can't wait to welcome you and talk to you again.
Thanks, Gilles.
Take care. Bye-bye.